Those were the nights, the old days at the Olympic. They had a little bald Irishman making the announcements. What was his name? Dan Toby? And he had style. He'd seen things happen, maybe even on the riverboats when he was a kid. And if he wasn't that old, maybe Dempsey Furbo anyhow. I can still see him reaching up for that cord and pulling the mic down slowly. And most of us were drunk before the first fight, but we were easy drunk, smoking cigars, feeling the light of life, waiting for them to put two boys in there. Cruel, but that was the way it worked. That is what they did to us, and we were still alive. And yes, most of us with a dyed redhead or blonde, even me. Her name was Jane, and we had many a good 10-rounder between us, one of them ending in a KO of me. And I was proud when she'd come back from the ladies' room and the whole gallery would begin to pound and whistle and howl as she wiggled that big, magic, marvelous ass in that tight skirt. And it was a magic ass. She would lay a man stone cold and gasping, screaming love words to a cement sky. Then she'd come down and sit beside me, and I'd lift that pint like a coronet, pass it to her, she'd take her nip, hand it back, and I'd say about the boys in the gallery, those screaming jack-off bastards, I'll kill them. And she'd look at her program and say, who do you want in the first? I picked them good, about 90%, but I had to see them first. I always chose the guy who moved around the least, who looked like he didn't want to fight. And if one guy gave the sign of the cross before the bell and the other guy didn't, you had a winner. You took the guy who didn't. But it usually worked together. The guy who did all the shadow boxing and dancing around usually was the guy who gave the sign of the cross and got his ass whipped. There weren't many bad fights in those days, and if there were, it was the same as now, mostly between the heavyweights. But we let them know about it in those days. We tore the ring down or set the place on fire, busted up the seats. They just couldn't afford to give us too many bad times. The Hollywood Legion ran the bad ones, and we stayed away from the Legion. Even the Hollywood boys knew the action was at the Olympic. Raft came, and the others, and all the starlets, hugging those front row seats. The gallery boys went ape, and the fighters fought like fighters, and the place was blue with cigar smoke, and how we screamed, baby, baby, and threw money and drank our whiskey. And when it was over, it was the drive-in, the old love bed with our dyed and vicious women. You slammed it home, then slept like a drunk angel. Who needed the public library? Who needed Ezra, T.S., E.E., D.H., H.D.? Who needed any of the Elliots, any of the Sitwells? I'll never forget the first night I saw young Enrique Bolaños. At the time, I had me a good colored boy. He used to bring a little white lamb into the ring with him before the fight and hug it. And that's corny, but he was tough and good, and a tough and good man is allowed certain leeways, right? Anyway, he was my hero, and his name might have been something like Watson Jones. Watson had good class and the flair, swift, quick, 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 and the punch, and he enjoyed his work. But then, one night, unannounced, somebody slipped this young Bolaños in against him, and Bolaños had it, took his time, slowly worked Watson down and took him over, busted him up good near the end. My hero. I couldn't believe it. If I remember, Watson was KO'd, which made it a very bitter night indeed. Me and my pint, screaming for mercy, screaming for a victory that simply would not happen. Bolaños certainly had it. The fucker had a couple of snakes for arms, and he didn't move. He slid, slipped, jerked like some kind of evil spider. Always getting there, doing the thing. I knew that night that it would take a very excellent man to beat him, and that Watson might as well take his little lamb and go home. It wasn't until much later that night, the whiskey pouring into me like the sea, fighting with my woman, cursing her, singing her, showing me all that fine leg, that I admitted that the better man had won. Bolaños, good legs. He doesn't think, just reacts. Better not to think. Tonight the body beat the soul. It usually does. Goodbye, Watson. Goodbye, Central Avenue. It's all over. I smashed my glass against the wall and went over and grabbed me some woman. I was wounded. She was beautiful. We went to bed. I remember a light rain came through the window. We let it rain on us. It was good. It was so good we made love twice, and when we went to sleep, we slept with our faces toward the window, and it rained all over us. And in the morning, the sheets were all wet, and we both got up sneezing and laughing. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. It was funny. And poor Watson laying somewhere, his face slugged and pulpy, facing the eternal truth, facing the 6-rounders, the 4-rounders, then back to the factory with me, murdering 8 or 10 hours a day for pennies, getting nowhere, waiting on Papa Death, getting your mind kicked to hell and your spirit kicked to hell. We sneezed. Jesus Christ. It was funny, and she said, "You're blue all over. You've turned all blue. Jesus, look at yourself in the mirror." I was freezing and dying, and I stood up in front of the mirror, and I was all blue. Ridiculous. A skull and shit of bones. I began to laugh. I laughed so hard I fell down on the rug, and she fell down on top of me, and we both laughed, laughed, laughed. Jesus Christ. We laughed until I thought we were both crazy. And then I had to get up, get dressed, comb my hair, brush my teeth. Too sick to eat. Heaved when I brushed my teeth. I went outside and walked toward the overhead lighting factory. Just the sun feeling good. But you had to take what you could get. Thank you.